Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I'm ready to do my full review on the Stitch. This is the Microtech Stitch. It is designed by Borka Blades, and it is a knife that he makes customs of, but Microtech makes this production version. And a lot of you have probably already heard of the Stitch because it is a beloved knife by a lot of people in the knife community. And I've wanted to try one for a long time. Finally picked this one up at California Custom Knife Show, and I am so thrilled that I did. It was the right call. I just like this knife a lot. So let me say, first things first, Microtech is a brand that I like a lot, and they do a lot of things right, but on a lot of their knives, they tend to pack in a feature or two that I do not like. Like glass breakers or tip down only carry, weird things like that, that to me, it makes otherwise really good knives less fun for me. This doesn't have any of those things. There's no weird glass breaker on here. It carries tip up, right hand only, which is how I want to carry it. And it has the best thing about Microtechs. As an automatic, it has a snappy, authoritative, fun automatic action. It's not an OTF, it's an out the side, so it's just done really, really well in that way. So let's talk about this knife and why I've grown to really like it so much. I loved this knife on paper before I got it, so I was pretty determined to like it, but I like it even more now that I have it. The Stitch is a big boy. It is not light. It is a heavy, large, robust, tactical knife. This blade is pretty wild. It's a pretty unique blade shape. They put this thumb hole on here even though it's an automatic. One person commented on one of my videos and made the argument that the reason they put it there is in case the spring ever fails, so that you can press the button and then pull it open with the thumb hole. Let me retort to that. You could do that by just grabbing the blade. I don't think the hole really makes that better as a fail-safe. I don't know. I wish that they would make a manual version of this. I'd absolutely buy that as well. I think the hole, if I'm being honest, was an aesthetic choice because the customs have the hole and it looks better with the hole than it would without. I think it looks pretty good. It seems natural to me that the hole is there because that's what I know the customs look like. I don't know. It would make more sense for there to be a hole there if it wasn't an auto, but has a useless hole. Anyways, I guess maybe it reduces the weight a little. That's good because it's already a pretty heavy knife, so every little bit helps, I guess. This one in particular is an M390 blade steel. They've been made in a variety of blade steels at this point. It's just kind of a matter of when the one you get came out. This one is brand new. This was made in October of 2020, and I'm shooting this in November. So this is serial number 5095. They've made at least 5,096 of them because I know the guy who has that one, and they're really nice knives. These tend, every time I see them get dropped at a dealer, to disappear quickly. And there's over 5,000 of them at this point. It's not like they haven't made very many. It's not like there's only a few hundred, and so they post two and they go. Like, people will get a batch of them and they go quick, and I get it. I understand why, because this is a knife that is worth chasing after, and I get why the people who get them oftentimes hold on to them. I don't see them changing hands all that much compared to a lot of other knives. I don't know, it just makes sense to me that people are catching on and have caught on. It's worth grabbing when you find one available. I do know Microtech just the other day posted a picture of some DLC Signature Series ones. I thought about selling this one to try to get one of those DLC ones, but Microtech does this funny thing on their Signature Series where they like to make it look all black and really tactical and very cool, and then they put the giant chicken foot on the blade. I know it's an eagle talon or whatever. It looks hideous to me when you billboard it giant on a blade. It's okay if it's on the patch, it's on the box. If it's somewhere small on the knife, I don't mind particularly that's their logo. But to put it the size of a quarter, billboarded on the blade, contrasting against the DLC with like this bright silver chicken foot, It really bugs me. So I won't be getting one of those. I would love it if it was just like this, but the blade was DLC and the hardware was all black. I think that would look really cool. But the chicken foot ruins it for me on those Signature Series ones. I'm sure some people love that it's got the talons on it. Cool, good for you. I don't. Anyways, so let's talk about the features of this knife and what I like, where I think it could improve, and all that. So first things first, let's talk ergos. Ergos on this knife are really quite good. I'm able to get a nice purchase on it just like this. The shape of this handle feels very intuitive to me. I like this curve back here and the way it rests into my palm. It's got all this jimping on the backspacer, but it doesn't bother me at all back there. It feels pretty good. It's not overly aggressive, and it feels nice in my hand. So this grip feels good. Now where this knife goes to the next level is that it has this forward finger choil, and it's got this harpoon up here. So with this harpoon blade shape and the choil, I get this amazing locked in grip on the blade like I was not expecting. I mean, I knew it had those looking at pictures, but I didn't think it was going to interface with my hand this well. This is one of the best designed forward finger choil / thumb placement setups that I've ever experienced. I've had plenty of knives with forward finger choils. I've handled plenty more, and I like a good forward finger choil. I love it on the Shaman and the PM2 from Spyderco and the Para 3. I love it on like Striders. The way that they have that forward finger choil is great to me. This kind of feels similar to like a Strider in a couple of ways, the way that I choke up on here, but frankly it feels better to me, especially the way that I've got this just perfect spot to put my thumb. It's just excellent. There is some jimping up here. I put the tip of my thumb past that, kind of up into this curve here, so I don't really feel the jimping all that much. Even if I am back on the jimping, it's fairly good jimping. I don't have a problem with this jimping. And this knife just feels, it's one of the most locked in sensations I've ever gotten from a folding knife on this one. It feels so good in my hand right there. I like it a lot. So ergos are absolutely out of the park good. It's good in a hammer grip. It's good in a saber grip back here. Good in a saber grip up here. Even a hammer grip up here feels very good. Forward grip, draw cut, totally works. Reverse grip, excellent, like really, really good. Notice that they didn't put a glass breaker back here to ruin it. Well done. There should not be a glass breaker on here or any knife. Microtech, in my opinion. But this feels really, really good. I've got a great spot to put my thumb. It's just, it feels, I mean, it's crazy to me that the reverse grip is this good with the forward grip being so good. I haven't really tried. I guess you could do reverse grip up in the choil. That's not the way that feels natural to me. I do reverse grip back here. Reverse grip draw cut, even that works. It's not bad at all if you needed to do some cuts like that. So, very, very good ergos. Let's talk about action. Not much to say here because it's a one-trick pony, but it does that trick really well. Out the side, Microtechs I've had good experience with in terms of action. This one is the best of the actions that I've felt. I recently did my comparison between this and the Hawk Auto, and this won by a little bit. It's just a little bit snappier, has a little bit more of a thud when it opens. It's really satisfying to deploy. I like it a lot in that way. Closing an automatic is always going to be kind of either a two-handed or like an against my leg kind of thing. I guess on this one you can kind of press the button, cheat the blade forward a little, and then, ooh, it's an awkward angle, and then close it. Let's try that one more time. Better on camera. It works. Oh, come on. It's not ideal, as you can see, to one-hand close this, at least for me. Maybe there's other people who have an easier time with it. That's the nature of having an auto, is I usually, if I only have one hand to operate it, I'm pressing the blade against an object to close it, and that's the way it works for me. So, action on deployment, excellent. On closing, it's like any out-the-side auto. To me, it's kind of a bummer, but it comes with the territory. Let's talk about carry. This knife is heavy. I think it's a little over 6 ounces if I remember correctly, although I'm not much of a specs guy. When I first got it, because I also had the Hawk Auto, and that's noticeably lighter, I literally looked up to see if I was wrong, and if these were like steel scales or something, because I was like, I'm pretty sure they're hard anodized aluminum, but I don't know. It does have this big titanium backspacer, which definitely adds to the weight, and the blade is super heavy. The hardware is all pretty beefy, so I can see where the weight's coming from. But yeah, there's no internal milling or anything like that, and it is a really robust, thick blade stock. So it's also a tall blade with all of that. So it makes sense where the weight's coming from, but it's fairly well balanced, especially if I'm in the forward choil. It feels nice and neutral in my hand, so when I'm using the knife, it doesn't feel that heavy, but it does if I've just got the knife folded and I'm like testing the weight for some reason. It feels quite heavy. In pocket, I can tell it's there because it's pretty heavy and it's a big sucker. This thing closed is tall this way, it's long this way, it's not thin, so it's a large knife in pocket. The pocket clip itself does pretty well. It's a little tight. It's actually a little tighter than the one on my Hawk Auto is. I don't know if it'll over time loosen up a little bit. It's not too tight, it's not a problem, especially because under it there's no texture, it's just nice smooth aluminum under there. So in and out of pocket it's fine. Although it is a little tighter than other Microtechs that I've had. I do wish, if I'm being honest, that it was a deep carry clip because I prefer deep carry clips. That's out there in the open, I always say that. But as non-deep carry pocket clips go, this one's pretty good. And with it being a little bit tighter, I have a couple of times grabbed kind of with the screws here to pull it out, and that has worked quite well. So, I don't know. The people who don't like deep carry pocket clips will probably love this pocket clip. It would be my preference if it was deep carry, but as non-deep carry clips go, it's functional, it works, and it's not like, I mean, there's a pretty decent amount of knife sticking out of your pocket, but it doesn't look nearly as big and intimidating what's sticking out of your pocket, because it kind of comes up to this point as what is then in your pocket. If like this much was sticking out of pocket, it might be a little more alarming, but anyways, the pocket clip is fine. Yeah, so it carries heavy and bulky, and there's only so much you can do about that, but I don't know, I find like carry is really important to me on knives, and I like knives that carry slim and carry light. I always appreciate that. But some knives are just fun enough, and I just like enough to put up with them being kind of a tank in pocket. Like, this knife is big and hefty in pocket, and I feel it more than I do other knives that I carry. But maybe because it's like I know that it's this that's in my pocket that's causing that little bit of discomfort, I'm okay with it because this knife is so cool to me. And because I like it so much, it's like a reminder that I have it on me. It's like, oh yeah, I'm cool, I'm carrying the Stitch today. So that probably doesn't make any sense scientifically, but let me know if you've ever experienced that. So yeah, carry is just passable. We've talked carry, we've talked action, we've talked ergos. Let's talk cutting performance. As I've already touched on, the ergos are fantastic, and that is step one to this being a fantastic cutter. The other thing is the way this blade is ground. It gets nice and thin. It's not crazy thin, but it's like as thin behind the edge here as any PM2 I've ever owned. And the tip profile, the way that like I like precise tips for the types of cutting tasks I do a lot of the time, and this one, the way it points, like kind of from my thumb with this harpoon here, it feels ridiculously intuitive to use this tip for things. I just kind of like know right where it's pointing at all times. And then the edge, I also have such a fantastic indexing on. So the fact that the blade is ground quite well, gets nice and thin, it's in M390, and it's got this really good edge on it. Like literally it's shaving sharp at the moment. I've got, I don't know if you'll see it, a bunch of, it shaves easily. It's a nice sharp edge, a nice blade profile, and the fact that I can lock in with it with these ergos on top of it being a good edge and a good point, it's just a fantastic knife to cut with. I love if I have a cutting task in front of me and this is the knife in my pocket, I like grin at the opportunity to cut things with it because it's really, really good. And it's also, it's like just kind of a genius way of doing this blade, I think, because the way that this blade is profiled, as you can see, for piercing tasks, it's going to be fantastic. It's kind of like the head of a spear here. And the way that this swedge relates to the primary bevel, it just looks really good, but it's also super functional for puncturing. And then on top of that, it keeps a lot of the meat throughout the blade, so the whole thing feels nice and robust. Nothing about it feels dainty. So the fact that I've got this robust, intense, like tactical blade, but that the edge and the tip on it are precise enough that I can use and enjoy using this for EDC cutting tasks is an anomaly. Most knives I've found that are designed for tactical use, designed to go through human flesh and breach doors and crazy stuff, right? They're not usually nearly as good as this at actual EDC cutting tasks. And so I've just been really pleasantly surprised with this one. Yeah, I love the Stitch. It is such a fun knife. It carries kind of like a tank, but it cuts super well. The ergos in my hand are just excellent. It's fun to play with. It's really cool. I love the way it looks. It's made in the US out of good materials from a company that I respect. There's a lot of really good happening here. And I think, I don't know, it just makes sense to me that there's such kind of a constant buzz around this knife. Because it's not a new knife. It's been out for years. And still, every time some drop, they get snatched up real quick. And a lot of people tend to rave about this knife, and I see why. I think it's worthy of the praise. So if this knife is too big and too heavy for you to carry, then that would be the only real reason I'd see to preclude somebody from getting one. But if you're worried that it's too tactical for you, I mean, it's not. It's so much better at things that aren't tactical than other tactical knives are. And I've talked about this a number of times recently, but it's too many tactical knives make way too many sacrifices in other knife uses, and they're so focused on just being tactical that they suck at cutting normal everyday things that people need to cut. And for most of us, even if we like tactical knives, we're not actually using them tactically most of the time. This one is great for everything I've really used it for, and none of that has been tactical. If I am in a situation where I have to use a knife defensively, and I'm hoping it's a tactical knife that's on me, I'd be lucky to find this one in my pocket, because it would be great for that, I think. Not really an expert, but I can see it being good at that. So, I don't know, this one just strikes a really good balance to me, and like it quite a bit. So, there you have it. This is the Microtech Stitch, and I freaking love this knife. It is really cool, and I'm super glad I've got one. I think this one is going to stay for quite a while. The Hawk Auto I'm going to sell. As much as I don't really want to sell the Hawk Auto, because I love that knife as well, I don't really see myself keeping both. It just seems they're not the same knife. They're very different, but I don't need two giant out the side Microtech Autos, and I like the Stitch a little better, which is hard to say. I really do love the Hawk, but this will be the one that I'm going to keep. So, thanks guys. Appreciate you watching, as always, and I will see you on the next one.